All right, well, thank you everyone for joining us. I'd like to start off by introducing myself and my Actera colleagues. My name is Ariane Erickson, and I am the Carl Knapp GoEB manager. And you also just met my colleague, Urban Rivero. He's our Climate Corps fellow, and he will be in the breakout room for most of this evening presenting in Spanish. We're also joined by Linda Hutchins-Knowles, and she is the Carl Knapp GoEB senior manager here at Actera. And also Sonia Marwood. She is one of our Actera EV ambassadors, and she will be assisting us by answering questions in the chat and also live when we take questions during the presentation. All right, just briefly about Actera. Our mission is to bring people together to create local solutions for a healthy planet. And we've been around for a long time, since 1970. Our current focus is on addressing climate change while advancing equity. And we're located in the San Francisco Bay Area. All right, the objective of this event is to inspire, inform, and support residents on tight budgets to afford electric vehicles, otherwise known as EVs. So I mentioned some of these things at the very start, but just want to reiterate best practices for this Zoom meeting. We do ask that you stay muted unless it's your turn to speak or ask a question. I also mentioned that this presentation is being recorded and that you may leave your camera on or off. And please put questions in the chat, and Sonia will be answering them. And we'll also have some time for back and forth Q&A later on. Okay, so briefly, here's tonight's agenda. We will start with an overview about just what is an EV, and we'll talk about the benefits of driving EVs. And then we'll take a very deep dive into all the financial incentives programs that can help make an EV affordable. And then we'll talk about the timeline for how you can secure each of these rebates and grants and discounts. And then we'll do questions and answers. And then we'll ask you to take a post-event survey. And during that time, you'll have the opportunity to sign up to indicate your interest for a follow-up consultation, which we offer for free as part of our service to anyone who is interested in having just a little bit of additional guidance and support along in their process. Before we begin, I'd like to thank our presenting sponsor. Peninsula Clean Energy is San Mateo County's official electricity provider. By providing cleaner energy at lower rates, Peninsula Clean Energy is an essential part of the fight against climate change in our communities. Peninsula Clean Energy provides one of our region's most generous grant programs for income qualifying individuals who live in San Mateo County or Los Baños. We will learn about their programs in detail later in this presentation. So let's begin. So the big question, first of all, that we have to answer is, what exactly is an electric vehicle? Well, let's use some illustrations to discuss the differences between a gas car and an electric car. So our first image is an image of a gas-powered car, and this should look very familiar to you. You see the red pieces inside the car are a combustion engine that is powered by fuel that you put into your fuel tank, and that moves the car forwards or backwards. And you can see, if I'm pointing to it properly right now, you'll see, of course, gas-powered cars have tailpipes, and they emit pollution when they are burning the fossil fuels that enable them to run. So about 10 years ago, manufacturers started making conventional hybrids. You'll recognize them. They're all over the streets now. The first one was the Toyota Prius, and it's been around for a long time. So conventional hybrids actually have a rechargeable battery that runs along the floor of the vehicle. And that rechargeable battery is responsible for providing electricity to an electric motor, which assists in propelling the car forwards or backwards. So hybrids still have the combustion engine and they still have the gas and the gas tank, but the rechargeable battery offers assistance to the gas engine. The thing about conventional hybrids is that it's the car itself that determines when it's going to use electricity versus when it's going to use gas. Now let's compare that to a new iteration of electric vehicle called a plug-in hybrid. And these are newer. They haven't been around for as long as the conventional hybrids. So you'll see on this image that now the rechargeable battery that runs along the base of the car is a little bit larger. And in fact, it's so large that it can't be recharged just by the engine alone. It actually needs to be plugged into an external power source in order to be recharged. And that's why they call it a plug-in hybrid. And so what you do is it has a port that I'm circling right now, and you plug a charger cord into the port. And on the other end, you plug it into an electricity source, such as a 110 outlet. And that is the process whereby you recharge the battery. Now, plug-in hybrids also still have the combustion engine and the gas tank, but the advantage of a plug-in hybrid versus a conventional hybrid is that now the driver actually has control over when the car runs on electricity versus when it runs on gas. So quite often, people who purchase plug-in hybrids, most of the time, use electricity rather than gas by choice. Because electricity, first of all, is cheaper than gas, and we will talk about that more a little bit later, and for other reasons as well, because when you're running your vehicle on electricity, you're not combusting fossil fuels, and so you have less emissions and pollutions that are coming out of the tailpipe. So let's move on to a 100% battery electric vehicle. You'll see in this image now that the gas tank and the engine, combustion engine, are gone. The red pieces of the illustration do not exist when you have a 100% battery electric vehicle. And you'll see that the battery is even larger than a battery in a plug-in hybrid. And again, it does need to access an external power source in order to recharge its battery. 100% electric vehicle operates 100% on electricity. There is no burning of fossil fuels. And you'll notice that there is no tailpipe in an electric vehicle, and therefore there is no pollution emitted when operating an electric vehicle. All right, so let's talk about what type of vehicle might be right for you. You could be asking yourself the question, should I get a 100% electric vehicle or should I get a plug-in hybrid? You might want to ask yourself a couple of questions in order to answer what type of vehicle you're going to get. The first question is, do you have an outlet in your garage or in your parking spot that you can use to charge your EV, or does your workplace provide EV charging? The second question that you might want to ask yourself is, do I drive less than 50 miles per day? If both answers are yes, then a 100% electric vehicle should meet all of your needs. Now, if you answered no, let's say you live in an apartment complex, we're going to talk about your options for if you don't have access to an outlet in your garage a little bit later in the presentation. So let's talk about the benefits of driving an electric vehicle. There are many. We will start with cleaner and healthier communities. I really like this slide. It really shows the extent of the pollution, of the pollutants that comes out of the tailpipe of a gas-powered car. They are very harmful to human health and to buildings and to even crops and forests. In humans, pollution from cars cause many health issues, as we know, including stroke, heart disease, lung cancer, asthma, and other respiratory diseases. So we really want to eliminate the pollution that comes from tailpipes, and we can do that by driving electric vehicles. As I mentioned, and as you can see in this photo, Electric vehicles have no tailpipes, and so they do not pollute our air. This is another one of my favorite slides. This is, you might recognize this as a photo of the 280 freeway. And you'll notice that there are blue skies and clean air. And I use this photo to illustrate, to help us imagine if everyone drove an electric vehicle, we could experience clean air and blue skies regularly and drastically reduce air pollution and its harmful effects on human health. So I mentioned that Actera is laser focused on fighting climate change. Electric vehicles are a huge piece of the solution. They will help ensure a safer, more stable climate. And that is because electric vehicles produce no carbon emissions. I'm going to show you what I call a pie chart. I call it the carbon pie, California's carbon pie. So it is a chart of California's total carbon emissions. This is from 2017. And the blue arrow here points to this very large slice of California's carbon pie. And you'll see that it is actually the transportation sector. It contributes the largest slice of California's carbon emissions, whereas electricity generation, which is comprised of these two blue slices of the pie, they actually are responsible for fewer carbon emissions than the transportation sector. And here in the Bay Area, the transportation sector actually produces a larger share of carbon emissions, anywhere from 60% and upwards. And that is because in the Bay Area, we are fortunate enough to have our electricity provided by clean energy associations, such as Peninsula Clean Energy, who purchase electricity from clean, renewable sources. And therefore, here in the Bay Area, the slice of the carbon pie due to electricity is even smaller than it is statewide, which means the section of the pie due to transportation is even larger. And that makes it even more valuable for us here in the Bay Area to make the switch to electric vehicles. Okay, let's talk about cost savings and also carpool lane access as being one of the other benefits of going EV. So we all know that gas prices are going up for various reasons. Even before this surge in the price of gas, electricity costs less than gas. And therefore, it has always been the case that EVs cost less to fuel than gas-powered cars. So this is a study out of the University of Michigan from a few years ago. And I think the savings have gone up since then because gas has gone up. But they concluded that the average driver would save about $830 per year by driving an EV versus a gas-powered car. With gas prices as they are now, I'm sure the savings is probably over $1,000 per year. All right, let's talk about maintenance. So electric vehicles actually have 10 times fewer moving pieces underneath the hood. So electric vehicle owners do not have to fix or replace a lot of things that owners of gas-powered cars have to be aware of and have to maintain. This slide here shows just some of the things that don't exist in an electric vehicle, such as alternators, clutches, fuel filters, fuel injectors, motor oil, mufflers, oil filters, radiators, radiator hoses, spark plugs, starters, timing belts, catalytic converters, water pumps, and no biannual emissions tests. So you can see, you realize that when electric vehicles don't have these pieces that need to be maintained, that don't break and need to be fixed, you will understand that maintenance is a lot less costly for owners of electric vehicles. In fact, Consumer Reports recently did a study that determined that over the lifetime of your of ownership of your vehicle, if you own an electric vehicle, your maintenance averages to about $4,600 total over the lifetime of the vehicle versus $9,200 in upkeep and maintenance for a gas-powered car. That's a lot of money that you can save over the lifetime of your vehicle. Here's another perk. EV owners save money when crossing our Bay Area bridges. The last I looked, it costs $3 versus $7 to cross the Bay Bridge. And for the San Mateo and Dumbarton bridges, again, $3 versus $6. This is during rush hour. There's no discount for the Golden Gate Bridge, but on these other three bridges, EV owners pay half price or even less to use those bridges during rush hour. And here is a perk that I mentioned. It's the carpool lane access. This again is one of my favorite slides. You will, once you become an EV owner, you can apply for what is called a clean air vehicle decal, and that is this yellow decal here in the corner of this image. And that will allow you as a single occupant to drive in the carpool lane. So it's a huge, huge benefit for people that, that commute on a daily basis using the freeway. And it's one reason that a lot of people choose to go EV for the carpool lane access alone. I do want to show you that there are there's different color stickers that correspond to different expiration dates. So when you first get your EV, you will apply for your sticker, and it's good for up to 4 years. And after that time, it does expire. So you'll see that the large stickers on the left-hand side of the screen, those are all still currently valid. And the ones that are on the right-hand side, the smaller ones, those ones are currently expired. So this is something that you should be aware of if you're purchasing a used EV. However, if you are buying a used EV and you do happen to have one of these stickers that are expired, if you are income qualifying, if you fall under a certain income threshold, there is a potential for those stickers to be extended. And one final note about these clean air vehicle decals is that unfortunately, this program will end in September of 2025. So we have a few more years left. It's one of the great advantages of being an early adopter, but in September of 2025, the program will sunset. I do want to make one more comment about the express lanes that you've seen that are being constructed along the 101. For the express lanes, if you have a fast track tag, you can get a 50% discount while driving in the express lanes, and if you have a clean air vehicle decal. So you can't drive for free, but you get half off if you drive an EV. And those express lanes are actually going to be extended along most of the 101 on the Peninsula. Okay, lastly, in terms of benefits of electric vehicles, EVs are easy and fun to drive, and they are easy to charge. I like to show this image of two people that are driving an EV for the first time. You can see they have their EV grins, and it's due to the fact that it's propelled by an electric motor, which is silent. The electricity goes to the motor instantaneously, and that provides instant torque and fast acceleration. And because there is no vibration from the engine, it's a very smooth and quiet ride. You really have to test drive an electric vehicle in order to find out for yourself just how fun they are to drive. And we're going to talk about an opportunity to take a test drive later on in this presentation. So let's see here. Let's move on to how to charge your EV, because it's kind of a new paradigm, right? It's slightly different than just going to a gas station, but I promise you that it is easier to charge an electric vehicle. It's more convenient to charge an electric vehicle than it is to fuel a gas-powered car. So what you do is the minute you bring your electric vehicle home, you'll be able to charge it if you have a garage or an external outlet that is on the outside of your house, or an outlet that is in your garage, just a 110 3-pronged outlet. That will enable you to charge your car the minute you bring it home. And that is because electric vehicles come with a level 1 charging cord. And that is what you see here that I'm pointing to on the left side of the screen. And you plug the charging cord into a 3-pronged outlet, and you plug the other end into your port that is in your car, and you can start charging your car. It's level 1 charging. It's sometimes called trickle charging because it is very slow, although you can get about 40 miles of range added to your car if you leave it charged overnight. So it's very similar to how you charge your cell phone. I would say most of us probably plug in our cell phones when we go to bed, and when we wake up, they're charged. The same thing with your electric vehicle. If you have access to home charging, you can get about 40 miles of range, which can take most people anywhere they need to go on a daily basis. So a lot of people simply use this level 1 charging. It's the most convenient. However, if you have a longer commute, if you drive over 40 miles a day, or if you just simply want to charge your car faster, you actually can purchase what's called a level 2 home charger. And I'm pointing to that right now. And that needs to run on a 240 volt circuit. So there is some electrical work that you'll need to have done in order to install a level 2 charger. But because it runs on 240 volts, it is faster. And in fact, it should give you about 25 miles of range per hour of charge. And an alternate level 2 charging system exists in public. There are companies that provide level 2 chargers. And we'll talk about where to access those chargers momentarily. And so you do have the option of charging at a level 2 speed using public chargers. And then the third level is called DC fast charging. And that can only be done in public. You cannot purchase and install a DC fast charger in your home. They're just too strong and powerful, and they provide direct current to your car rather than alternating current. And so they are only available publicly. The charging stations are quite large, so you'll recognize that it's a DC fast charger if it's a very large public station. Tesla has their own version of DC fast chargers. They're called superchargers. You might have heard of that term. That can only be used if you purchase a Tesla. However, all other makes and models have access to a wide variety of other charging providers that can provide your vehicles with DC fast charge. Fast means it can charge your car between 130 and over 200 miles of range per hour. So they truly are fast. You usually use them when you go on long road trips. I do want to say that the cheapest way to charge your car is by charging at home by either using level 1 or level 2 charging. Once you charge your car at a public charging station, you will notice that you will be paying more. And on that note, we should talk about when to charge your car. The cheapest rates from your local utility providers are generally in the early hours of the morning. In fact, for PG&E, the most expensive time to charge your car is between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. They really discourage you from charging at that time because that's when renewable energy kind of comes offline. The sun goes down and there's not as much renewable energy left to power homes. And so they really want to reduce the gas-powered peaker plants that come online during those hours. And so the rates are more expensive then to discourage people from using electricity and charging your car during that time. But after 9 p.m., all the way through the evening, and as a matter of fact, all the way during the day until 4 p.m., is the less expensive time to charge your car, with the least expensive time being, I believe, from midnight to 4 a.m. or thereabouts. So finally, I do want to talk about utility bill discounts. There are programs that you might be aware of called CARE and FARA, and they are discounts programs that are available for income qualifying residents who receive their energy bill from PG&E. And so if you meet their income guidelines, you can qualify for up to 20% off your monthly utility bill. And that makes fueling your car at home even cheaper. But what if you live in an apartment complex or a condo? It is harder to charge your car because you don't have your own garage and your own outlet, unless you're fortunate enough to have your own parking spot, which happens to have an outlet, but a lot of people don't when they live in apartment complexes. So there are solutions, and we're working on more solutions. For now, let's talk about a couple of options. They recently have, some startup companies have recently started producing what we're calling smart outlets, and they plug into apartment complexes, existing wiring, and they enable the landlord to provide this outlet for the tenant's use, because it enables the tenants to actually sign up to charge and to be billed for the exact amount of electricity that they're pulling from the outlet. And so it's a way for apartment dwellers to access common electricity in their garage and only be charged for the amount of electricity that they use when they're charging. So those are called smart outlets. And there's another service that's relatively new, and I haven't used it. We're calling it a concierge service, which just means that they're providing you with a service that brings a charger to you. It brings mobile chargers to wherever you are, including home or your workplace. It's called Currently, and it's a subscription-based service. And so these services could be quite helpful if you live in an apartment and don't have access to a home charger. Perhaps this is an option for you. As I said, it's new. And so it's untested, at least in amongst the people that I know. But if you end up using this service, I would love to hear how your experience goes. This slide, actually, we just talked about, but it bears repeating that it is wise to power down from 4 to 9 p.m. when you would be paying more for electricity to charge your car, and you'll be paying less between the hours of 9 p.m. and then all the way until 4 p.m. in the afternoon. Okay, let's move on. We're going to very shortly talk about how to afford an EV on a budget. But I just wanted to provide an overview of the current state of the industry before we dive in, because the pandemic has really shaken up supply chains, and it's really turned the auto industry on its head. You probably are aware of the semiconductor chip shortage. It's wreaking all kinds of havoc on vehicle manufacturers because there are a lot of computer chips inside modern vehicles. So, you know, there's a scarcity right now of all passenger vehicles, including electric vehicles and gas-powered vehicles. So obviously demand currently outpaces supply. And the most popular vehicles, both EVs and gas-powered, generally are containing dealer markups. And the dealer markups range from anywhere from $2,000 all the way up to $10,000, which is pretty insane, but it's a reality. The chip shortage is expected to last well into the second half of this year. So it's tough out there right now to find an EV that doesn't have a dealer markup, or even to find one of the more popular EVs at all. But I do want to say that it's still possible to buy a car right now with some patience and with some resourcefulness, and also with a little bit of luck. So let's dive into ways that will make the EV more affordable for you. And we will start with credits and rebates for individuals who are thinking about purchasing a new car. Of course, you'll want to ask yourself, can I make the higher loan payments on a new car versus a used car? And if you feel as though you can, then the next several incentives are for you. So the big one is the federal tax credit. You might have heard about this. Again, you have to purchase a new electric vehicle in order to qualify for this credit. It provides you with up to $7,500 off your taxes. The credit, the amount of tax credit that you'll get is based on the size of the battery of your electric vehicle. So if you're purchasing a plug-in hybrid, which has a smaller battery, the amount of your tax credit is going to be lower. If you purchase a 100% electric vehicle, you will likely qualify for the full amount of the federal tax credit. Something to keep in mind is that you do have to have at least a $7,500 tax liability in order to take advantage of the entire tax credit. So if you only owe $5,000 worth of taxes and you buy a 100% EV, you're only going to reduce your taxes by that amount of $5,000 and no more. So it does depend upon your tax liability as to whether or not you can take advantage of that full tax credit. And of course, the tax credit happens the year after you purchase your EV. So you do have to pay full price on the car the year you buy it, and you're able to take that as a tax credit the following year when you do your taxes. Another important thing to note is that if you lease an electric vehicle, it's actually the financing company that gets to claim the credit because technically they are the owners of that vehicle. In some cases in the past, the financing company that you're leasing the EV from has been willing to pass through that federal tax credit onto the leasee. But in this market, that's becoming more and more rare. And finally, I should mention that there are manufacturers that don't qualify for this federal tax credit anymore because there is a limit to how many electric vehicles each manufacturer can sell before the tax credit is phased out. So Tesla, which sells the most EVs in the United States, has already reached their limit. So you can no longer take the federal tax credit if you purchase a Tesla. And that is the same for all General Motors vehicles, such as Chevrolet, the Chevrolet Bolt, for example. They have exceeded their cap, and so you cannot take a federal tax credit if you purchase any vehicle produced by General Motors. There are hopeful enhancements coming to the federal tax credit that will take away that cap, but Congress has to pass those enhancements. So they're not here yet, but we're keeping our fingers crossed. Okay, the next rebate that we want to talk about is the California rebate. So if you purchase or lease an electric vehicle, you can get a rebate from the state of California. What you have to do is complete a form online after you purchase your car. They send you a rebate check in the mail. Sometimes it takes up to 3 months, so you'll have to be a little patient. There are some caveats. The MSRP of the vehicle, if it's a car, it can't exceed $45,000. If it's a larger car like an SUV, it can't exceed $60,000. So Tesla, again, is not eligible because Tesla costs too much for this program. And your household income can't exceed $150,000 if you're a single filer, or $300,000 if you're a joint filer. But if you meet all of the criteria, and if your vehicle meets the criteria, you can get a rebate check for $1,000 if you purchase a plug-in hybrid and $2,000 if you purchase a 100% electric vehicle. All right, let's talk about the increased rebate from the state of California that is available to income qualifying consumers. So individuals who earn less than the income levels on this chart can actually receive an additional $2,500 rebate from the state of California. So if you look at the chart, and if your income level falls underneath this threshold, you can qualify for an additional $2,500 from the state of California and additional programs that we're going to cover in some of the next slides. And finally, for purchasing a new electric vehicle, there's a program called the California Clean Fuel Reward. And this is basically a discount off the price of the car that is applied at the point of sale. So when you purchase your car, you need to ask for the California Clean Fuel Reward. Again, the amount is based on the size of the battery. So if you purchase a 100% electric vehicle, you will get the full $750 discount. If you're purchasing a plug-in hybrid with a smaller battery, you'll get less of an amount, generally between $400 and $600. The dealer has to be a participating dealer. Most dealers are participating in this program, but you should ask before you actually make the car purchase if you want to take advantage of this program. Okay, I just want to remind you to please put questions in the chat box. And Sonia is standing by to answer any of the questions that you might have. So feel free to put those questions in the chat box, and then at the very end, we'll open it up for additional Q&A at the end of the presentation. Okay, so let's do an example of all the credits and rebates that we just talked about for purchasing a new car. So the 2020 Nissan Leaf Plus is a fantastic car. It's actually the cheapest electric vehicle that you can purchase today. So it's a great value. And the Nissan Leaf Plus, if it has a plus at the end of its name, it has a range of 226 miles. So over 200 miles, anything over 200 miles is really great range and really should meet most of your needs. The Nissan does actually make a model that has 150-mile range, and that is the regular Nissan Leaf without the name Plus at the end. But this example is for Nissan Leaf Plus, and its original MSRP is about $34,000. But if you do apply the federal tax credit and the California state rebate and the clean fuel reward, you can bring down the cost of this vehicle to about $23,645, which is pretty amazing. Now, here's the caveat. In this current market, you're going to face dealer markups. So that's the bad news. Recently, I checked with local dealers, and they are charging a $5,000 markup on the Nissan Leaf. But the good news is that for 2022, Nissan actually reduced the price of the Leaf by $5,000. So the MSRP right now is actually $5,000 less than it was this time last year. So between Nissan reducing the MSRP and the dealers adding a markup, it's kind of a wash. It is hard to locate Nissan Leafs. There is a wait list at most dealers, but if you can get your hands on one, they really are one of the best values on the market today. Okay, now let's talk about special grants, otherwise known as free money for new or used EVs. So this program, Clean Cars for All, is the big one. There are several things that you need in order to qualify for this big grant. The first question that you need to ask yourself is, do I live in an environmentally disadvantaged community? And that is because the Air District sponsors this program, and they would like to provide support to individuals who live in traditionally high polluting communities. So Sonia has put a link to the Clean Cars for All website in the chat box. And if you are able to click on that link, it will take you to their website, and it will pull up a chart of zip codes. And if you look at that chart, and if you see your zip code located on that chart, that means that you live in a community that the Air District has designated as an environmentally disadvantaged community. And that means that location-wise, you would be eligible for this grant. There's two other qualifying criteria. You also have to own a working vehicle that is a model year of 2005 or older that you have to be willing to turn in. And that is because it's the Air District and they are trying to take higher polluting vehicles off the road. And finally, this is the same chart that you saw on a prior slide. You do have to be income qualifying. Your income needs to fall below these thresholds. Now, if you meet all of those criteria, you are in luck because that means that you are potentially eligible to receive a grant from the Clean Cars for All program in the amount of anywhere from $5,500 all the way up to $9,500. And this is for a new car or a used car, a plug-in hybrid, or a fully 100% electric vehicle. And the range is determined by your income. So if you fall well within the income thresholds, you are likely to receive the full amount of the grant. Okay, let's move on to the Clean Vehicle Assistance Program. There's actually two programs that we'll talk about here, but they are, they're kind of twins. They're sister programs. One is called the Clean Vehicle Assistance Program, and it's available to all California residents. And its sister program is the Driving Clean Assistance Program. And you have to live in the Bay Area in order to apply for that second program. Unfortunately, the first program has a wait list for applicants, but the Driving Clean Assistance Program for individuals who live in the Bay Area is currently accepting applications. So we'll hone in on that one. Again, you see the chart. If you fall within these income thresholds, you are eligible to apply for the Driving Clean Assistance Program. And you can apply the grant towards, again, a new or used, a plug-in hybrid, or a fully electric vehicle, and even a conventional hybrid as well, although the amount for a conventional hybrid is on the lower end. So if you're purchasing a conventional hybrid, you're more likely to get the $1,500. If you purchase a plug-in hybrid or a 100% EV, you will end up getting a larger amount. And it also is based on income. So again, if you fall well within the income threshold, you're likely to get more grant amount. And if you just fall underneath the income threshold, then you won't get the full amount. So with these two programs that I just talked about, you cannot apply to both. You can apply to one or the other, but not both. In other words, they're not stackable. All right, so now I would like to, I'd like to talk about some county-specific programs. The next two grants only apply to residents who live in specific counties. And the first one is a program that is being offered by Peninsula Clean Energy. And we are fortunate enough to have Peninsula Clean Energy's Community Outreach Associate, Vanessa Shin, joining us to explain the Peninsula Clean Energy's rebate program, along with a couple of other benefits for Peninsula Clean Energy customers. Go ahead, Vanessa.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ariane, for the introduction, and for Actera for coordinating and inviting us to this workshop. I've already learned so much and really appreciate the opportunity to share a bit about some of our programs. And so you got a little introduction to what Peninsula Clean Energy is earlier. But just as a reminder, we're a public agency formed to help fight climate change by purchasing electricity on behalf of residents, businesses, schools, and other organizations from clean sources at lower rates. And so we have many programs and rebates to help our customers use this clean energy at home and on the road. And so I'm excited today to show you and present some of the programs that are eligible for residents of San Mateo County or the city of Los Banos. And so on this slide here, we have this familiar income chart. And just wanted to encourage you all to take a look at it and see if you do qualify based on these income thresholds, as you may be eligible to receive additional incentives for our used electric vehicle program. And so next slide, please. And so this slide shows information about our rebate to purchase used electric vehicles. And so if you fell within those income qualifications on the last slide, you can receive a $5,700 rebate for a used plug-in hybrid, or $6,000 for a used 100% electric vehicle. And even if you don't qualify based on those income guidelines, anyone in San Mateo County or the city of Los Banos can receive up to $700 for a used plug-in hybrid, or up to $1,000 for a used 100% electric vehicle. And so note that you can also combine this rebate with other income-based grants and programs, and we'll give an example of that on the next slide. And also just wanted to note that to participate in this program, we ask you to pre-apply on our website before purchasing your vehicle, and I can share information about where to access that. And then before we move on, just wanted to highlight another program that is fun and can really help you if you want to explore different models and see what it's actually like to drive an electric vehicle, and that is our EV rental rebate. And so you can receive $200 of just basically free money to rent an EV and basically see, usually that covers the cost of renting for 2 to 3 days. And with that time, you can see how the models fit into your lifestyle, if they fit into your needs, test out charging. You can see how fun it is to drive an EV, as we talked about earlier. And so I'll also put some information about that in the chat. And so on this slide, this is an example of the rebate amounts when you combine the Clean Cars for All program, as well as Peninsula Clean Energy's used EV program. And so this is a really wonderful example put together by Actera's team. And you can see that you can get a 2018 Chevy Volt plug-in hybrid and reduce that price to just under $9,000. And so if you do happen to qualify for Clean Cars for All, as well as the used EV rebate from Peninsula Clean Energy, you can really lower the price of an electric vehicle and help make it more accessible. And so definitely encourage you to, if you do live in San Mateo County or the city of Los Banos, to fully explore all of the rebates and incentives available to you. And Actera has so many great resources for checking that you qualify. Next slide, please. And then finally, I'm really excited to share that Peninsula Clean Energy will be launching our e-bikes for everyone program very soon. And what this is income qualifying residents of San Mateo County or the city of Los Banos. You can apply for a $1,000 rebate to purchase an electric bicycle. And so the application period will be opening very soon. It'll be opening on May 16th and will run until June 5th. And if you apply, you'll be entered into a lottery to receive this rebate, and you'll be hearing back in early June. So we definitely encourage you to check this out if it's of interest. And I'm happy to answer any questions for you in the chat. And thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Vanessa. So there are a couple of additional programs for individuals who are interested in purchasing e-bikes. We had talked about the Clean Cars for All program, providing up to $9,500 towards the purchase of an electric vehicle. But if you would prefer to go with an e-bike, they also are offering the option of a $7,500 grant to purchase an e-bike. And then we have Contra Costa County residents can also be eligible for $150 to $300 off the purchase of an e-bike. So I see here that we are running a little bit behind. So there is another regional grant program for individuals who live in any of these cities or counties. And so just quickly, can you turn on your microphone or raise your hand if you actually fall within any of these cities? And if we don't have anyone, then I'm going to skip this section. Oh, we do have somebody raising their hand. Okay, so I am going to carry on. So this is another program provided by a community choice energy provider. This one is Marin Clean Energy. And you can see here all of the cities that qualify if you're a resident of any of these cities. Again, your income does have to fall within these income guidelines. And if they do, you could be eligible to apply for a rebate of up to $3,500 if you purchase a new electric vehicle or plug-in hybrid. So that's a great perk for residents who live in Marin County and other cities that are within Marin Clean Energy's service territory. Okay, now here's the good news. The two programs that we talked about earlier on, Clean Cars for All or the Driving Clean Assistance Program, can be combined with these two regional grant programs, Peninsula Clean Energy and Marin Clean Energy, to make your savings even bigger. So it's a wonderful benefit that you can take advantage of if you meet the eligibility requirements for all of these grants. Okay, we are starting to wind down. This is the point in time where we talk about the timeline, and the timing is very important for maximizing the financial incentives that you can receive for purchasing an EV. So before you purchase your car, it is super important to receive approval from the income-based grants that we discussed. You will probably wait to get approval for anywhere between 3 and 6 months, but it's important that you do not purchase your EV until they send you your approval letter, which you then take to a participating dealer, and they're the ones that will take the grant money off the price of the car, and then they will actually submit for reimbursement to the granting entity. So it's super important that you first apply to the programs and receive your approval letter in order to get those grants. And then we did discuss the California Clean Fuel Reward is a point of sale discount on the car that an eligible dealer will give you if you ask. After you purchase your car is when you apply for the California State Rebate. It's an easy process. You go online, you fill out a form, you provide your vehicle's VIN number, and it does take maybe 3 to 6 months in order for them to send you a rebate check in the mail. And that is also the time when you apply for your carpool stickers, again, by filling out a form. Those two are after you purchase the car. And then, as I mentioned, it's not until you file your taxes the following year that you can take advantage of the federal tax credit. Okay, next steps. If you are income qualifying, we invite you to request a free one-on-one consultation with Actera. It's a 45-minute online consultation, which will help you identify which rebate programs you qualify for. We give you an action plan of steps to take to obtain your rebates, and you can request this consultation when you complete our survey. We like to conclude this portion of the presentation with a testimonial. This is Henrietta Burrows, and she was able to get her own EV using a rebate from Clean Cars for All, and she's truly satisfied with her driving experience. And now what I would like to do is hand things over to Linda Hutchins-Knowles, if I can find her here. Oh, here we go. Hi, Linda. I'm going to add you to the spotlight so that people can see you, and make sure that you're unmuted.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you, Ariane. I'll keep this really brief. I know we're pushing up at 8 o'clock here. So just because a lot of you, I'm guessing, you're here tonight because you're interested in electric vehicles, you probably feel like I do that everyone deserves access to them. And for that, everyone needs access to charging. So if you can go to the next slide, Ariane. We've discovered as we've done this work that there's these great incentives available to help with the purchase cost. But if you live in an apartment or a condo, there's some a little bit extra challenges. And we talked tonight about some of the solutions, but we really want to make sure that it's easier for apartment residents and condo residents to access charging. So next slide, we have formed a coalition that has worked really hard to push the California state government to make sure the building codes actually build new apartments and condos with pre-wiring for EV charging. And we're proud, you can see on the last column there, that the code jumped from only 3% of multifamily housing having access to charging to this coming, starting in January, 40% of the new apartments and condos with parking, 40% of those parking spaces will be pre-wired. But going on to the next slide, that is not enough because that leaves 60% of the residents out in the cold, having to find out other ways to get charging. So you can see our coalition is really robust. We have many organizations and individuals around the state who are working together to get this EV charging access. And so that link there where it says bit.ly/EV access, the next slide, it's a way for you to, if you'd like to, oh, I'm sorry, that would be the right side for that. I'll put it in the chat. That's a way for you to get involved if you would like to volunteer with us. And that could be something as simple as just, speaking up at a meeting or sending an email. That's how you can get in touch with us. And then one more ask, the next slide, a very simple thing you could do is that we have a bill, Senate Bill 1482, that will mandate that the code for California new buildings for apartments and condos provide 100% of the units with parking with EV ready access. And so our bill is, we're really excited. We passed the Senate Housing Committee, the Senate Transportation Committee. Now it's going to the Appropriations Committee. And if it passes there, it will go to the floor of the Assembly for a vote. And so we're asking people to contact their senators and to make it super easy. We've written the email. All you have to do is click on that link. We'll put it in the chat and it'll send it to your senator. It'll even find out who your senator is by you putting in your address, and it will look up who your state senator is. So that is a really easy way that you can help show the senators that we should be supporting EV charging equity for all. So I will stop with that, but if you did want to reach out to me, that form I shared first will help let you get in touch with me for more information. Thank you, Ariane.
This next Thursday, May 12th, we're conducting an EV charging workshop, which will provide further details about how to charge your EV, how to install a home charger, charging options for apartment dwellers, and how to find and use public charging stations. And then I mentioned the opportunity to actually take a test drive of an electric vehicle. And here's your opportunity on Saturday, June 18th in Sunnyvale at the Baylands Park. You do need to RSVP to reserve your spot, and it's a great opportunity to test drive a number of vehicles all at once. And so finally, I do again want to thank Peninsula Clean Energy for making this event possible. We really appreciate the support and your priority on clean mobility and on our region making the transition to clean vehicles. And with that, I will I'll go back to our Q&A slide. And this is really the end of our presentation. And so you are all welcome to leave if you need to, or you can stay. And we are making ourselves available for any Q&A that you want to ask. You can turn on your cameras, unmute yourselves, raise your hand. This part is going to be very informal, very casual. And so you're free to talk with us and ask more questions or make comments. And to make it even easier, I think I will stop sharing. And I see someone has...
Ariane, I did want to mention there was a couple questions in the chat that maybe you want to address. So one was, is this presentation going to be available afterwards?
Yes, it will be. We will It takes a day or two for us to download it and to do some minor editing, and then we upload it onto YouTube and we.
There's also a question about electric vehicles that have lots of leg room for people who are, tall drivers. So I think you're a little bit more familiar with the actual EVs models than I am. So maybe you could address that.
Sure, yes. Until recently, a lot of the EVs were smaller, such as the Nissan Leaf and the Chevy Bolt. But more recently, they have started coming to models that have dedicated platforms. So they're being built from the ground up as electric vehicles. And because of that, their wheelbase is longer than gas-powered cars. And so there's actually more room in the interior of an electric vehicle than its counterpart gas-powered car because of the longer wheelbase. So that actually provides more room for your legs. Two such models would be the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and the Kia EV6. They're both considered so kind of SUV-esque type vehicals. And then there are a number of plug-in hybrids that actually are larger. The Kia Sorento plug-in hybrid actually has a row and can seat 6. And the Hyundai Tucson plug-in hybrid is also more kind of a medium to large, well, it's not really large, but it's a larger SUV than some of the earlier EVs on the market. And then Marin is coming out with a full-size SUV, but not until next year. That will be kind of the biggest, most full-size SUV available when it comes out. Let's see. I hope that answers the questions. If I think of more, feel free to email me, and I can mention some others. Shauna?
Hi, I was just filling out the survey. I think I missed. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. What was I forgot. Hold on.
That's okay. When you think of it, just raise your hand again.
Will do.
Let's see. Does anyone else have any questions? You can turn on your camera, raise your hand.
There was also another question, Ariane, about apps to find charging stations.
Yes. Okay. Let me answer that, and then I will answer Nancy's question. Yes, I omitted a slide that I often put in here, and it references a charging station software program called PlugShare, plugshare.com, and maybe someone could put that in the chat. Once you get your EV, you'll likely be using this website. You can also download it as an app. You simply plug in the area that you'll be visiting or where you're looking for charging stations, and it will pull up a whole list. And you'll see that there's thousands. There are thousands of electric vehicle charging stations available to the public, especially here in the Bay Area. So let's see, Nancy.
Oh, hello. I am in the Los Angeles area, and I know that you guys are based up north, but do you know of any, do you guys ever do any meetings that focus on dealerships down here or programs down this?
We don't, but there is a great organization called Electrify America that lists events on its website, and they're nationwide. You could also check out your local chapter of the Electric Automobile Association, because they also conduct educational activities for the public. And so hopefully you'll be able to find a similar workshop that will talk about grants and rebates specific to the Los Angeles area. Another good thing to do is if you have a local community choice energy provider, is to look on their website, because they're fantastic about providing information about electric vehicles and sometimes even rebates, such as Peninsula Clean Energy.
Thank you.
My suggestions for your area. Good luck. Does anyone have any questions for Vanessa about Peninsula Clean Energy's rebate for used EVs, or the EV rental program, or the upcoming e-bike rebate? If you do, you can just unmute, turn on your camera, raise your hand. Does anyone have any additional questions?
Hey, I want to ask Vanessa about the Clean Assistance Program. Is that one can be for anyone, right? With the income eligible, right? Is that correct? Can you hear me?
Yes, and actually I could answer that. Yeah, the Driving Clean Assistance Program, it is for Bay Area residents.
Okay.
Come qualify.
Okay.
And that's a different program than the Peninsula Clean Energy Program that Vanessa discussed. The Peninsula Clean Energy Program is for residents of San Mateo County and
yes.
Banos.
But they're only for used car only, right? Not a
Correct.
used vehicle. Okay, it's nothing new. Okay, got it. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Right.
Well, we're happy to. Oh, Shauna, did you remember yours?
No, but I did have one question. So are there any rebates? Well, I know there's not any tax rebates, but any rebates to California or energy for Teslas?
Not any longer.
Okay.
As I mentioned, the federal tax credit.
Well, I knew there wasn't a tax credit. I was wondering about the other.
Oh, the rebates. Yeah. Oh, actually, they do still qualify for the California Clean Fuel Reward.
Is that the $750 one?
$750.
Okay.
But if the federal tax credit is enhanced by Congress, I anticipate that the cap on Tesla vehicles will be removed and that they will again qualify for the federal tax credit, but that is TBD. Well, do we have any last questions before we end?
In the chat, Ariane,
yeah.
Noah has a question about, are there any income qualifying grants for Alameda County? Do you know of any in Alameda?
There is one for if you live in Alameda City. And I can't remember the specifics, but if you go to the city of Alameda, they have information about their rebates for purchasing an EV, but not countywide, just for the city of Alameda.
And then finally, Diana asks about, there's a website that she can find out about all of the programs in California because she has family in Fresno. And so wondering how to find out.
Sure. Yes. We will send you a follow-up email, and the follow-up email will include a 2-page document that lists all of the grant programs and rebates that we discussed in this presentation. But we'll also send you links to a rebate finder tool where you can live anywhere and plug in your zip code and find the rebates that apply to your community. Well, on that note, thank you for staying with us for this informal part of the evening for the remaining Q&As. We thank you for attending and for considering an electric vehicle in your future. And please reach out to us if you have additional questions. We'd be happy to answer them. And please do complete the survey, especially if you are interested in a follow-up consultation. And with that, we will end the program and wish everyone a good evening and a fantastic weekend.
And if you do buy an EV, let us know. We want to hear the successes. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.